Alabama Hills is definitely a must-see. If you're from California, you just moved to California and you're trying to like hit all the major spots that you must camp, this is probably in the top 10 that you would have to see.
So we went to
Alabama Hills.
Why did we go?
I think it was mostly because you missed it. You just hadn't been there for a while and you're like, I want to go back.
Yeah, because the last time we were there was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's one of those spots that you probably should go back to every now and then. But normally we choose places based on the weather and try to get like a nice 75 degrees or whatever the whole time we're there. This time it was based on solely the location. We want to go back to see this particular spot. And the weather wasn't particularly perfect.
I wore shorts the entire trip.
Yeah. Planning a trip out to Alabama Hills, you are going to run into tons of people. So it's a very, very crowded location, very, very popular location. There's a lot of opportunities for RVs, big vans, trailers,
Car commercials.
basically, to get on back there. So you're not just going to be competing with other folks in off-road vehicles, but regular cars are out there as well because the roads are so smooth. And so yeah, where all of this is going, if you're gonna come out on a Friday night or a Saturday night, there's a good chance that there will be no spots left over. I went out Friday morning to try to secure us a spot while the rest of the group kind of got collected, got all this stuff.
What time did you get there? Around 4 or 5 o'clock?
Yeah, so I got in around 5, almost like 5 or 6. I live in Los Angeles. So for the folks that are in Los Angeles or can then estimate how far from Los Angeles something is, Alabama Hills is like a 4-hour drive.
Yeah, you live like right off of Hollywood and Highland, which is the worst intersection of all time.
Yeah, I live in the heart of Hollywood, so yeah. So
for anybody who doesn't understand that, just don't. If you're ever in Hollywood, skip Hollywood Boulevard. There's nothing there.
You don't want to go to Hollywood.
Yeah, but the second thing is just like avoid that intersection like the plague.
Yeah. If you're coming out to LA for tourism stuff,
just don't.
It's terrible. Don't come. No, if you're coming out to LA for tourism stuff, I am more obviously of an outdoors guy, and I will direct you more towards Malibu. So you came back, it was dark.
So the only reason why we arrived so late was because Jeremy lives on the west side. For all of you who don't understand, basically Los Angeles, you split it by the highway, by the famous 405. So anybody who lives west of the 405, you just basically call it the west side.
This is how ridiculous this is. Of all of Los Angeles, so you're seeing a whole map of Los Angeles and how far it goes to the east. The 405 is very clearly on the far west side of the city, and they call that where the divide is.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it's just a line, it's a border, right?
Yeah, but the line is like not anywhere central to the city. It's like, oh, that line is on the far left side.
I feel like that highway is like a lineman in football blocking the good weather from getting more into the city.
Yeah. Well, and I think your point was it's just hard to get from the west side to anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Or, getting to anyway, so this is becoming more of an LA podcast.
I don't want it to be an LA.
I know, but I don't either, but I mean, I think you have to describe it. So anyway, our friend Jeremy is on the west side of LA and commuting to where I live, which is in the valley. So within the valley, that itself, no traffic, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I got here in 16 minutes.
Yeah, and with traffic on a Friday at 3:30, it took him over an hour to get to my house.
Yes, that's the difference.
After an hour, we got everything packed and situated about 5 o'clock, I think, at that point.
Which I was already there.
You were already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. After you pass Santa Clarita, it's smooth sailing from there.
Yeah.
So it's 2.5 hours nonstop just driving, and it was great. So once you hit the open road.
Yeah, I mean, you guys probably, I don't know how dark it was.
We timed it pretty well, I think, because as soon as it got sundown completely summer, it was around 8:30. Alabama Hills is very safe. Most of the road is basically paved at that point. We knew even if we got some nighttime driving, it wouldn't be really big of an issue.
Let's talk about some of the reasons why Alabama Hills is so crazy.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
Some of your favorite movies
Yeah.
have just been filmed there.
Definitely movies you've heard of.
Iron Man,
Django Unchained.
Django Unchained,
Yeah.
Tremors is another one.
Yeah.
And not to mention every Silverado commercial since like 1998.
So why do people film so frequently out there? It just looks so crazy. So you have the tallest mountain range in the contiguous United States. Alaska has Denali and everything like that. But if you're just talking about
48 states.
48 states,
Yeah.
this is the tallest mountain range. Down below, east of the Eastern Sierras, like down below, it turns into a desert because those mountain ranges just completely block any and all rainfall from coming through. And then there's a couple more, and that's why Death Valley exists, basically, and why we have such a big desert right there.
California is so cool in that way because obviously you have the entire coast and then Mount Whitney and the rest of that peak. If you go to the west of that, that's the Sequoia.
Yeah.
You know,
Go to the west of that, you're in the forest. Go to
Yeah.
the east of it, you're in the desert.
Exactly. And then, you have like this valley that we're in, and then it immediately becomes Death Valley after that. And then you get Las Vegas, which is even worse. But and we've done all of them, which is cool because it's just
this is the best place to go and go exploring, I would say. And probably all of America. My favorite little range, like all compact within one area. You have Death Valley, Alabama Hills, Mojave, Joshua Tree, all of these iconic desert places to go. And then just go a little bit west, you have the tallest mountains, and then a little bit further west of that, Sequoia National Park, Yosemite is right there, John Muir, Ansel Adams Wilderness. It doesn't really get more beautiful than this area. So that's why everything's filmed here. And so I think that's one of the reasons why people would be drawn to go see it, is just the awe-inspiring beauty. But then I think the accessibility of it, it's right off the highway. There's really no off-roading necessary. If you've got a higher clearance vehicle, you don't need four-wheel drive.
You said it has a road directly to the highway, but that wasn't the case really, kind of with all the flooding that happened a year or two ago, I think.
I didn't even know about it until you told me.
That's what they say even on the website. It was because of all the torrential rain from like the hurricane that came through, and this area gets nothing in a year.
They chose a really good template for that website.
Yeah, it's actually pretty impressive. Yeah. And it gives like really good high quality pictures too.
Yeah, so. Not only tells you that the road is out, but you get to really experience how bad the road is on this website.
It gives you alternate routes to get back into there because it is an open park, but you just have to go through, a couple of different roads to get there.
Yeah, and this will probably only be for a bit of time. So if you're watching this video like a year after we filmed it, the road is probably open. Just check out the website and see.
I would recommend that Tuttle Creek Drive, though. That was gorgeous.
Yeah. If you're catching this like right after the video was dropped, then there's two entrances. There's one farther north and one to the south, which was Tuttle Creek.
That was a scenic one. Yeah. Tuttle Creek.
That one's kind of cool. It meanders and winds through a bunch of the boulders. It's meant to be a scenic drive.
We saw people fishing in there.
Yep, a lot of fishing spots. It is a real creek that has water in it. So yeah, why did we come out early? It is a very popular spot. It's very hard to get a good campsite while you're out there. But they made matters a little bit more difficult for all the best reasons. They're trying to preserve the ecology of the location out there. This place was crazy because there was hundreds probably of spots.
The first time we went was in 2019, I think.
You should probably show, because the whole point of that video was how many people were out there, and it was sort of depressing. There's so many people out there.
Well, even our second video when we tried to go with our friend Lawrence, when we drove out there, we literally actually didn't find a spot that day.
We had to keep going.
Yeah, we had to just randomly find it in like another area.
Yeah, it was Inya. We drove up to the next national forest north to find a spot because there weren't any. There's so many people that get attracted to this place, and they had so many campsites that were available out there. And I think that after a while, the Bureau of Land Management, who manages this land, said, yeah, we can't.
This is one of my favorite places of all time, just because like the views are amazing.
The views are amazing.
There, you can go camping. There's a lot of areas that you can go hiking in.
Geology is amazing. The wildlife is cool.
Wildlife, you could actually see it. It's not like it's hiding anywhere.
They've got these giant lizards.
Yeah,
Huge.
and you saw some bats.
Yeah,
and
lots of bats at night. Yeah.
It's incredible.
The plant life is cool. The rocks are cool. I mean, everything just looks really cool.
Yeah, and all of those rocks, like we read it on the internet, that, you know, some of them were like 200 million year old formation.
Yeah, so there's 2 different types of rocks that you'll see around there. One of them is volcanic.
Yeah.
And the other one is a really long, interesting looking word that I'm not even going to try to say, but the end of it was granite. It was like, you know, like 15 syllables,
Right.
And then the word granite, which was the only one I recognized, so that stuck in my head.
I can't even spell maintenance half the time.
Maintain. I
lot.
can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't. Dude, we live in a world where without spell check, like, I had to write letters by hand the other day. It took like 30 minutes to write one paragraph. But I can't spell. It's like my weakness, spelling.
We're getting off topic again. Oh yeah, the rocks. You were talking about the rocks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you saw those rocks that were really cool because it had that like line.
Yeah. So we don't know anything about geology.
No.
Period. It's very limited, but this place will make you care. I guess that's a cool way
Appreciate
to put
it.
Yeah, it'll make you appreciate it. You get out there, you'll see some formations that'll make you go, okay, why did that happen?
Right.
What is happening there? The mountains have really eroded in such a fashion, and Alabama Hills are very round, and there's arches and things to see because of the way maybe the wind and the sand like erodes those rocks. But in them, you'll see these stripes of lines that's almost like a totally different rock, just randomly in these layers.
It's like almost so perfect too, because you also thought it was like maybe asphalt, like they were lining it.
Yes, in certain places it looks too perfect.
Yeah.
Like it's a good place to visit if you want to feel tiny.
It really makes you think of how small humanity has been, like in the time span.
Oh, and then
general.
speaking of that, we should talk about the night sky.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to feel small.
That area is great for nighttime photography. Zach was getting awesome shots of
we should show
pretty
those.
much everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have like most cell phones nowadays can even capture a clear shot of the Milky Way.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see the central Milky Way pretty much with the naked eye.
Yeah.
If you're not into all of this science stuff, going to places like this will make you curious.
It's funny because on the subreddit for camping, there's always a lot of questions like, what do you do when you go camping? We do a lot.
We probably don't do enough even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good question though. Like, what do you do and what to do while you're out there?
Yeah.
Go check out the arch. Go check out whatever it is that the tourists do.
Right.
While you're out there during the day. And it really came back to bite us on this trip because I felt like we were kind of like waiting for the weather to improve. We were like, let's wait till it gets a little cooler and then we'll go do something.
Honestly, it wasn't too bad. Like I think in general, like the temperature wise, it was getting hot, but I think we were at the limit to what, you know,
in the shade we were okay.
Yeah, like I wasn't sweating profusely. The wind at night though, that second night that we were there, I thought our awnings were gonna fly off completely.
Yeah. It was crazy because we had the awnings out and the awnings are trying to lift off. We staked them very well to the ground, so they couldn't lift out of the ground, but they were trying to really hard.
Yeah.
And making a lot of squeaking and chattering noises all night long.
Well, your wife broke her finger that way, basically.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, well, that was with the tent, but Anza Borrego had some really harsh winds. You got to watch out for the big tarps or tents or whatever. Her finger was in one of the loops on a big tent. Yeah, like pulled and just.
It's insane.
Snapped her finger.
Yeah, it's probably like 40-mile-an-hour winds carrying a tarp that's like a sail. So yeah, it's gonna break something.
Yeah, for sure.
What was your favorite part about this trip?
What was my favorite thing about the trip? I think most people can probably relate, but catching up with old friends. Just like every time I come over here and I get to see these guys. But I think it is like catching up with old friends, sitting around. We all work in the same industry together, but we barely talk about work at all. I think it's that. Have some deep conversations with some people that share interests with you around topics that you would never get to talk to.
I think that's partially why camping is pretty great in general. You know, it gives you exactly what you're talking about. It's your close group of friends. Even if the situation is terrible, like high winds or hot weather, like you're all roughing it out in the same area.
Yeah.
And what makes it memorable and fun is basically Jeremy yelling at everybody for 2 days straight.
Don't you forget it. Here at Rex Kwando, we'll teach you how to fend for yourself in nature. Bow to your sensei.
I just want to talk to my fans, okay? Don't forget to smash that like and punch that subscribe.
All right, 1 out of 5, 5 being the most difficult, what would you rate Alabama Hills in terms of the off-roading experience?
The majority of Alabama Hills is basically a 0.
Yeah.
It is
paved.
It is basically like a paved road. It isn't a paved road, it's a dirt road. But it's very wide, graded, and meant for regular cars to travel on. You'll get to some specific offshoots in the trail, and if you download the map or get the brochure or whatever, you'll see what I'm talking about. There are some trails that come off of the main road that are really long. And along those trails, they have what are called gatekeepers, which are just 1 or 2 obstacles to try to slow down the number of cars that get out there. So, you know, you must have high clearance off-road vehicle to kind of get over one rock or something like that.
I mean, there's really no question. If you're in California and you want to go camping, just go. But just go early.
Go on Tuesday.
Or Thursday, maybe. Thursdays? Like
Maybe
Thursday night?
Let's say this. Alabama Hills is for people on vacation.
Yeah.
Or people who are retired.
Yeah.
Or just people who have some ability to not work a 9 to 5.
Right.
Because if you're on the 9 to 5 schedule, so is Alabama Hills, basically.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to put it, for sure.
Yeah.
Or you cut out of work early.
Just take some vacation days.
What's our next trip?
Next trip. Forest, for sure.
Forest.
We're done with desert for the year.
Yeah. It's too hot.
Here's my vote. I'm saying Yosemite, National Forest outside of Yosemite for dispersed camping, day trips into the park to see.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Let's grab the beers and get out.
Cheers.
Nice. All right. I love that 200 people will watch this.
Mostly my family.
Mine too.